The story of the eating of matzos at Passover began some 2,000 years ago during the exodus from the land of Egypt. The children of Israel were slaves unto Pharaoh in the land of Eretz Mitzrayim, and were forced by the cruel Egyptians to do all sorts of hard and difficult labor. The Almighty, through countless miracles and wonders, including the 10 plagues, freed the Bnei Yisrael from the terrible oppression of the cruel Egyptians. We were commanded by the Almighty to retell the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, which means the going out of Egypt. This is done every year during the 14th and 15th days of the month of Nisan. During the conducting of the Seder, Matzos, the unleavened bread, also known as the bread of affliction, is eaten as commanded by the Almighty. The matzo must be prepared and baked in a very special way. And that begins with cutting and gathering of only carefully selected kernels of wheat. Let's visit a field of wheat. Even this field must be selected with the utmost care. Many fields are visited and closely examined to make sure that the stalks of the one chosen are fully ripened, absolutely dry, and ready to be cut. The weather plays a prominent role in the cutting of the wheat. It can only be cut during the dry season, when the warm rays of the sun make it possible for the stalks to be fully dry. Any moisture or dampness would disqualify the stalks from being cut. In the flight from captivity in Egypt, there was no time to wait for the dough to rise, as is customary in baking bread. Thus, our ancestors baked matzah, which translated means unleavened bread. During the entire process of the baking of the matzah, the dough is never given a chance to rise. That is why it is so important extra steps of caution be taken to make sure that the kernels are fully ripened and dry, even while the wheat is still in the field. Dampness and moisture cause the kernels to split and expand, making them unfit for use. The kernels are repeatedly examined for quality, dryness, and purity. After a final careful inspection, the kernels are ready to be transferred to the flour mill, where they will be ground into a fine flour. Now let's visit a flour mill and watch a step-by-step, careful preparation for the flour for the baking of shmura matzah. See the machinery of a flour mill in action. The larger wheels are driven by water flowing from a nearby river and are aided by a whole maze of pulleys and smaller wheels. The kernels of wheat are then ground by this huge millstone. The millstone is first carefully cleansed, removing every particle of dust, making certain it will be perfectly clean for the grinding of the flour for the shmura matzah, which you know now as the guarded unleavened bread. After a final inspection, the kernels are transferred to the separating machine, where all foreign particles and matter such as dust and granules of soil are expertly separated and removed. Only the pure kernel remains ready for grinding. After completing the separating process, the kernels are poured into the shaft which leads to the huge millstone, there to be powdered into fine flour. The kernels are repeatedly crushed as they pass through the two large millstones, again and again until it is a fine powder. finished flour falls off the two large millstones and is channeled into white sacks and stored. Extra care is taken to make sure that the flour never comes in contact with any water, for this would disqualify the flour for use as shmura matzah. After the sacks are filled and weighed, they are sealed by a special sewing machine and are transferred to another storage bin, ready for delivery to the shmura matzah bakery. Now we are ready to visit a shmura matzah bakery. The matzah is baked in an oven that is heated by burning logs of wood. Coal is also used to maintain a steady flame and a balanced level of heat. Extra care is taken to make sure that the entire process of preparing the dough and baking of the matzah should not take longer than 18 minutes. From the moment the flour and the water make contact until the removal of the shmura matzah from the oven, no more than 18 minutes may pass. The sanding and removing of any foreign matter on the rolling pins and inspection by the rabbi signal the final preparation for baking. All the cleaning must meet the strict requirements necessary for baking shmura matzah. In fact, this is done every 18 minutes. Throughout the entire baking period, the dough is prepared in a special room that has two windows, one for receiving the flour, the other for the water. The flour is carefully measured and weighed to meet the precise specifications required in making the shmura matzah dough. The water is also carefully measured. The water, mayim shalonu, is drawn from a well and remains overnight in order to maintain the required cool temperature before it comes in contact with the flour. The 18-minute countdown has begun as the flour is placed in a round metal pot and the water is poured right over it. The baker begins to knead the dough. Without stopping for a moment, he keeps on turning, mixing and squeezing till the dough reaches the precise texture required. Notice the extra care taken to make sure that all of the flour is mixed with the water and that none of it remains stuck to the sides of the pot. The dough is then distributed to trained workers who now begin to roll the dough and flatten it till it takes the necessary thin shape of the shmura matzah. In the Haggadah it is written, Hilachma anyo deacholo avosona biara de Mitzrayim. This is the same bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Since the year 2448 after the world's creation, the children of Israel, in all generations, in whatever land they may be, fulfill the sacred mitzvah of eating the handmade shmura matzah during the Seder nights, the 14th and 15th days of the month of Nisan, in each and every year. Before the dough is placed in the hot oven, additional precaution is taken to prevent the dough from rising. A special machine perforates many tiny holes, after which time the dough is placed on long wooden rods and with meticulous care inserted in the oven. It takes skill and practice to unroll the rods as they are inserted in the oven. Care must be taken to see that the dough falls flat on the bed of the hot floor of the oven. The countdown of the 18 minutes is now drawing to a conclusion. It takes only a few crucial seconds for the dough to be fully baked. This is indeed a highly critical moment. For if the dough is left too long in the hot oven, it will begin to burn. Extremely cautious, the baker keeps a constant watch on each and every matzah to determine when it is ripe and when it is to be removed from the oven. Very gently, he removes each matzah. At this moment, it is so highly brittle and frail, it can be easily cracked, split, or broken. The children of Israel welcomed the cherished mitzvah of Shmura Matzah with open arms and a heart full of joy. Ashreinu matov chalkenu. Oh, how fortunate and lucky we are to have a share in this lovely mitzvah, even though, as you have seen, much toil and labor is involved in the preparation and baking of the Shmura Matzah. Throughout all generations, the mitzvah of Shmura Matzah has been identified as a divine source of good health and spirit. It has preserved and maintained the Bnei Yisrael during the entire Golus, the exile. With firm emunah, belief and trust, we turn in prayer and devotion to the Almighty and anxiously await his final redemption. Hashta hacha, though we are yet in Golus, exile, L'shana haba b'yarad Yisrael. We pray that by next year we will be a free nation in our own holy land, Eretz Yisrael. This will take place with the arrival of our righteous Redeemer, Moshiach Tzidkenu. He will rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, and all the children of Israel will be returned to Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. L'shana haba beYerushalayim. Did you ever wonder where we get the delicious wine for Passover? And for that matter, for the rest of the year as well. Let's look in at a wine factory and see for ourselves the various steps involved, from the picking and selecting of the grapes in the field to the ultimate serving at your table. After the grapes arrive from the vineyard, they are poured into a special machine that softens them and prepares them for the wine press. Now they are crushed and pressed in order to remove all the juice. This is the juice of the wine we drink. Using this juice as it is called grape juice. However, if we permit the juice to remain in the large vats for an extended time, it will ferment and become wine. In order to be able to use this wine for Pesach, extra care must be taken to make sure that it never comes into contact with anything that is chametz. It is for this reason wine or grape juice intended for Passover use must be made under very strict rabbinical supervision. The supervision begins at the very start of the entire process, and those in charge are thoroughly learned and acquainted with the laws of Pesach. Every step of the way, from the arrival of the grapes at the factory to the pouring into the wine bottles, is carefully watched and observed by highly responsible supervisors. Pesach Seder is highlighted with the drinking of the 4 cups, each cup representing one of the 4 expressions of Geula, or redemption. And there is a 5th cup, honoring Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. He visits each and every home, blessing us all with Kol Tov, everything good. We anxiously look forward to the day when Eliyahu Hanavi will announce the arrival of the long-awaited Moshiach, who will gather us from the 4 corners of the earth and return us all to the promised land, our own holy land, Eretz Yisroel. At the end of the Seder, we conclude by calling out in unison, B'Shana Haba Be'Yerushalayim. Next year, we shall already be in Jerusalem. It's time now to prepare our holiday Seder table, now that the matzos and wine are ready for Pesach. This begins with intensive shopping from a long list of kosher Passover foods necessary to fulfill the Seder and Passover requirements. As you make your way through the crowded and busy stores, you may well find your friends and relatives doing the same. Included on your shopping list will be the bitter chrein, horseradish, and romaine lettuce, the ingredients of moror, the bitter herbs, a symbol of the hardships endured by our ancestors. Everyone takes part in preparing the chrein for the Seder, especially the kiddies who love grinding the horseradish. The eyes may well with tears, but that doesn't seem to matter. After all, it is a mitzvah, and mitzvahs deserve mesiras nefesh, self-sacrifice one way or another. In honor of Yom Tov Pesach, the festival of freedom, there's the last-minute purchasing of shoes for the kiddies, a brand new chinik for grandma, glassware and china for mommy, a scurrying for all sorts of festive holiday items. The burning of the chametz is quite a spectacular event. After an intense, thorough cleaning of the entire house, in all the nooks and crannies, all the chametz found is finally burnt. The magnificent candelabra adorns the Seder table as the wine, bottle, and the cups are in their proper places, ready for Kiddush. The Seder table is now complete with all its glorious settings. The service is about to begin. Each of us approaches the observance as it is written, as if we personally were delivered from the bondage in Egypt. As we recline and take part in the Seder, we thank the merciful Father in heaven for enabling us once again to conduct the service in good spirit and happiness. We pray that the Matzos be a source of emunah, firm trust and belief in the Almighty, creator of miracles and wonders.